all know that cigarettes are deadly, but did you know that each year in the United States, over 50% more deaths are caused by bad diet than by cigarettes? To be precise, about 400,000 deaths are caused by smoking, while it is about 600,000 deaths that are caused by poor nutrition. And of course, under the slogan, bad diet, we can distinguish different factors that are detrimental to our health. For example, high-fat diet. However, today, I would like to focus on sugar. Sugar is essential for human life. It is used to produce energy needed for a human body to carry out all the functions of life. So without sugar, we would not be able to live. However, there are different types of sugar. And the one I would like to focus on is fructose. Fructose is often referred to as the worst type of sugar. It is a simple sugar that can be found, that is naturally occurring, for example, in fruit juices as well as honey. And in our diet, we can find fructose, for example, in table sugar, which contains 50% of, which is composed in 50% of fructose, as well as high fructose corn syrup, which is a substance extensively used in a large number of food products nowadays. I decided to choose, here you can see the products that contain high amounts of the high fructose corn syrup that I mentioned, and I chose the products that are quite popular in our country because I wanted to make sure that all of you have at least once in their life tasted at least some of these products. And I want you to remember about these products, and I'll be giving you a further account of how fructose affects our life and why it is often called the worst type of sugar. So there are several factors that contribute to fructose being so harmful. Firstly, the consumption of fructose does not trigger the release of hormones that tell our body that we have eaten something, and that tell our body that we, at least for some time, no longer need to provide foods to our body. So it basically means that theoretically we could be eating fructose indefinitely without feeling as if we have eaten something. Secondly, fructose does not trigger the release of another hormone, insulin, whose function is to lower the level of sugar in our blood. So, after the consumption of sugar, after the consumption of fructose, the levels of sugar in our blood stay above the optimal value. Moreover, fructose has been identified as one of the main factors leading to common diseases, such as type 2 diabetes, obesity, cancers, also coronary diseases, which are one of the main cause for death in today's world, but also non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and this is the disease that I would like to focus on. So when we eat fructose and we also consume high-calorie foods, our body, our liver to be precise, is not able to carry its function properly. So it converts fructose into fat, and that leads to the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And I believe that this example is particularly effective because it shows us that something as simple as table sugar as well as high fructose corn syrup that can be found in these products, for example, can lead to the same disease that alcoholism often leads to. So today, scientists are certain that the overconsumption dopamine in our body, and this is the key factor that makes us addicted to sugar. So we have already established that both cigarettes as well as fructose have detrimental effects to our health. They both cause deadly diseases, they both cause the deaths of thousands of people each year. They are both highly addictive. Yet, people's attitudes towards these two products are so different. So I would like to discuss several aspects of our society's approach towards sugar, mainly fructose. Let me start by schools. Throughout the 11 years of my education, almost every year I had this special lesson devoted only to cigarettes and how they affect my health and our health. And I have to admit, these classes were pretty effective. They explained to me how cigarettes affect our body and why under no circumstances should I ever smoke. But throughout these 11 years, I never had a single lesson devoted solely to sugar and how sugar affects our health. Since I was a little girl, I was actually surrounded by sweet products, as probably most of you were. I have always been getting chocolates for Christmas and holidays. I have, for example, been buying sweet products in my store, in my school store. I have, for example, my primary school was giving out sweets to children who received good grades. And even today, at the students' dormitory where I live, I received a chocolate bar for breakfast. So doesn't that seem weird to you, that all these products that remind you both highly detrimental to our health and highly addictive are given to children? Doesn't that seem irrational to you? Think about it. How would you react if you heard that children are given out cigarettes by their parents, their families, their schools? Wouldn't that seem unthinkable to you then? So why doesn't it seem weird to us when children are given sweets that as cigarettes are putting under threat humans' lives, and that as cigarettes are strong addictive agents? So why are chocolate bars and many other sweets given out to children so often? The answer to that question lays in our society's approach towards sugar. Another example that I believe would be a good representation of the problem that I'm presenting today are advertisements. You all probably know that advertising cigarettes in our country is banned, but advertisements of products containing high amounts of fructose are perfectly normal. And not only are they common, but also they are often addressed to children. So they're created in such a way so as to attract the youngest. Such discrepancy between the ban on advertising cigarettes and sugar advertising bans, and sugar advertisements being so common and addressed to children seems a bit irrational, doesn't it? We have already established what effects fructose has on our health, and we've discussed the addictive character of sugar. We have also talked about the attitude of our society towards sugar compared to the attitude towards cigarettes. But did you actually know that the attitudes towards cigarettes have not always been as they are now? In the past, people were not aware of the effects of smoking on our health. Several decades ago, smoking cigarettes was, I could call it a huge trend, and cigarettes were omnipresent. Almost everyone was smoking, even indoors. To better show you what I mean, I believe it would be useful to use an example from pop culture which best represents the moods of the society. So, as an example, I want to tell you about a Polish crime series which has 2 seasons. The first one is set at the beginning of the 80s, and the second one is set at the end of 90s. And the passage of time in that series was represented through the change in the attitudes to smoking. So in the first series that is set at the beginning of the 80s, cigarettes are omnipresent. Everyone is smoking. While in the second season of the show, one of the first scenes that we see is the scene that mentions the ban on the smoking indoors. So I think that it quite effectively shows the passage of time through the change in the attitudes towards smoking over about 20 years. So taking into consideration the fact that there has been a huge change in how people perceive cigarettes throughout the last 70 years, I believe that in the next decades we can expect a change in the attitudes towards sugar and sweet products. In order to predict how that change will occur, I constructed two graphs that represent the change in the attitudes towards cigarettes throughout the last decade. So this is the first graph. It represents the number of cigarettes smoked per one person each year in the USA. And we can see that there has been a huge decline in the number of people who smoke in the United States. And here we have an average price of a cigarette pack in the USA, which has sharply increased throughout the last 70 years. So based on that timeline, on these graphs, we may therefore expect changes, such as a sharp increase in the price of sweet products and the ban on advertising sweets as a product for children, as well as a huge decline in the number of products containing high amounts of high fructose corn syrup in the next following decades. So I deeply hope that my predictions will be accurate. I hope that in the next decades, as you will be observing the predicted changes, you will come back to my TED Talk. And even though this whole concept of banning products that are a source of fructose in the form of high fructose corn syrup, which is particularly harmful, does seem pretty irrational today, I'm almost sure that sooner or later such change is bound to occur. Thank you.